The United States have in large parts of history been exactly that, united, either against common goals or obstacles. But America has become more divided in several ways, and the deep divide is truly a challenge for society as a whole and for individuals. I will look at 3 ways in which Americans are divided. In the next film, we'll look at their economic and ethnic divide, but we'll start off with their political divide. To illustrate how America is more politically divided than before, we can have a look at this graph of American voters. Down at the bottom, we have an axis that shows how liberal or conservative the American voters are, and the vertical axis shows how many people belong to each point on this graph. If, for example, many people are very conservative, we would see a high line on the right side. And if few people are liberal, we would see a low line on the left side. If we look at all Democratic voters in 1994, we see that a few are very liberal on the left, not that many are conservative, but most are slightly to the left of the center. That means that the average Democrat in 1994 could be placed here. If we do the same with Republicans, we see a similar result, but on the opposite side. In 1994, these two groups would agree with each other on several topics, so a Democrat didn't have to be that far apart from a Republican from a political standpoint. Over the years, these two groups have moved in opposite directions. Watch what happens when we skip ahead to 2015. Democratic voters have become more liberal, Republican voters have become more conservative, and the distance between the average Democrat and Republican has grown. Now it looks like the left and right are on 2 mountaintops, with a canyon or valley separating them. But what does this divide mean? Well, for one thing, it creates an environment where the two sides see each other as enemies. There have often been disagreements between the two sides in the past, but these disagreements have become far more hostile in later years. Many Democrats and Republicans blame each other for the challenges facing America, and people on the left and right distrust each other more and more. During and after the election in 2012, and especially after the elections in 2016 and 2020, where Donald Trump was involved, there have been a lot of negative comments and hate speech between people and news media on the left and on the right. We see more of so-called digital and physical echo chambers, which is where you only communicate or interact with people that you agree with, which again can reinforce your own beliefs and opinion of the other side, and we also see fake news about political leaders. Another thing we see is that the two main political parties have become less diverse than before, which means that political party support has become more aligned with ethnicity, geography, age, religious beliefs, and ideology. If you are a white evangelical Christian and you live in the South, you are most likely a Republican voter. If you are a young person of color living in a big city and you have a college degree, you're most likely a Democrat. We see that public debate is more extreme and hostile, especially for heated political issues such as abortion, gun control, income inequality, immigration, healthcare, and climate change. Instead of a debate, we get shouting between people on opposite sides, almost as if they're on 2 mountaintops trying to get their message across. Note that the political divide affects individuals in their personal lives, as it puts more pressure on social relationships. It is quite a big difference from having a discussion with a friend or family member that you slightly disagree with, to all of a sudden not speaking to each other, as is the case for many American families and communities. Many Americans agree that there are important challenges in America, but they disagree about what challenges are most important, who is to blame, and how they should be solved. This is why the divide between the right and left is perhaps one of the main challenges in American society, because as we have seen, it separates the population into 2 sides that struggle to find common ground and a unifying path forwards.